Good morning to you. It is Monday, and we finally made it to October the 2nd. Good to have you with us on Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis, and we've got a great show coming your way. It is Mental Health Monday. Special returning guest joining us just in a few moments. But right now, my co-host every Monday, Dr. Nicholas Cox from the History Department. Good to see you, Nick.
Good morning, Todd. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good, kind of low key, but man, I'm telling you, some good football yesterday. It was good to be a Houston fan yesterday. Astros clinched their division, and the Texans, man, wow. Professional football's back in Houston, huh?
You know, the most of the football I see happens to be high school football with my son playing in that marching band. We went to a game on Friday night down in Sugar Land.
Very nice. It was a good weekend. Next weekend's supposed to be a lot better. They say the weather is going to be phenomenal. It's been a while since we could say that.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I'm ready for the summer to be over.
Well, Nick, we want to welcome everybody watching us on Facebook Live and YouTube. We're here just about every morning, Mondays through Fridays, when HCC is in session. An exception later on this week, though. We'll talk more about that. But Nick, they can also catch us in social media anytime, and they can watch us on our cable channel.
That's right, Todd. We are live on Houston Community College District Facebook page and on YouTube. We're also on X, formerly known as Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on HCCTV at noon, 5 and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. Though, like you said, maybe this Friday will be a little different.
Hopefully so. Well, yeah, we're going to talk more about that later in the show. We've got a special event coming up on Friday. Right now, though, Nick, you're going to be interviewing this next guest. We're welcoming someone with an important perspective on Indigenous Peoples Day. Sheryl Ballard is HCC History Professor and a Native with a Native American focus. Good morning, Sheryl.
Good morning, everybody.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, well, thanks for being here. We're looking forward to talking with you in just a few moments. Nick's going to be with you in about 10 minutes.
Sounds great.
All right, we're going to kick things off. One of our returning guests, Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, the Executive Director of the Jung Center of Houston, and our Mental Health Monday guest. We're talking about compassion this morning. Sean, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you again, by the way.
Thank you. It's good to see you too, Todd.
We're often told that compassion is an important value to cultivate. What is compassion, and why is it psychologically valuable?
So compassion comes from two Latin roots, cum and passio. And if we translate them pretty directly, what they mean is to suffer with, right? To feel with or to suffer with. And it sounds pretty close to empathy, right? Empathy is our capacity to feel what other people are feeling. What's different with compassion, what differentiates it is it's empathy with the intention to help to alleviate the suffering of the other person. When we cultivate compassion, what we're doing is we're connecting with others in a meaningful way that has the capacity to help both of us. It can help to put our own struggles and suffering into context, right? Or and also we can grow in our understanding of others. We can sort of take the eye off of how we're struggling and understand that as part of the human experience.
Well, are there limits to compassion? I mean, you can have compassion towards people. I'm thinking particularly towards someone who may have been committed a criminal act. You want to have compassion for them, but you also want to have compassion for the victims. They deserve compassion too, right?
Yes, of course. And there are definite limits. I would say boundaries, right, to compassion or how we understand compassion. So there's a difference, between the experience of compassion and the actions that might come from that, right? So what we do with the experience of compassion that we have, it's not forgiveness and it's not absolution. What it is involving recognizing that we are all suffering and helping this other person that we encounter not feel so isolated or alone. This is a really interesting week for me around this, because we're tomorrow night we'll be inviting Anthony Ray Hinton to speak on behalf of the Jung Center. So Ray was on Alabama's death row for more than 30 years for a crime he did not commit. He was exonerated by Bryan Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative. And one of the core ways that he survived was, he started with hate. He started with incredible anger and hate, as you would expect for the ways in which he was, what led to his incarceration. But crucially, he made a turn toward compassion. He realized that the way for him to live most fully in that context was to support his fellow inmates and to create a sense of community on death row among people who were guilty of the crimes that they committed and who would be executed, as well as people like him and others who were on that death row for the wrong reasons. So it didn't matter to Ray. They were all fundamentally human and deserving of care.
His story sounds fascinating. This is an event that you're having at the Jung Center. Can our viewers participate in this?
Sure can. So this is a fundraising event for the Jung Center, but it's also a friend-raiser, and anyone can attend. It can attend online. Go to our website, junghouston.org. It's the first image on the screen. Can also attend in person. Come to our building, and then we'll be walking across the street to the Museum of Fine Arts, where we'll hold the lecture tomorrow night.
All right, we'll have that information in our social media post after the show. Here's a weird question: can one be too compassionate?
Yeah. I think it's a great way of framing it, because I think that that's how we think about it. I believe that you can't be too compassionate, but you can misunderstand how compassion, the role that compassion has in your life and the effect it's supposed to have on you. So we can take on too much of other people. Some of us are kind of hardwired to do that based on how we grew up, like what our role in the family was. Sometimes in our families, the only way we could be seen or get attention was because we were good at helping other people. And so we kind of got into that habit of my only worth comes from the ways in which I am denying my own needs and taking care of the needs of others. So compassion is not the only way we need to be in the world. We actually kind of need to start with ourselves in order to be able to do this in a sustainable way. There's a great, wonderful researcher at UT. Her name is Kristen Neff, and she's written a couple of books now on self-compassion, which has 3 elements to it. So the very first one is to start with to notice the ways in which we judge ourselves and replace that with kindness. So she would call this self-kindness versus self-judgment. The second way is to connect with, as I was sort of suggesting earlier, the ways in which we are not alone in our suffering. We tend to isolate ourselves and believe we're the only ones who are experiencing this. If we can expand out and recognize that the world is full of suffering, that helps. And then the third, and this I think is crucial, is practicing mindfulness, allowing ourselves to be present in this moment and be separate from the people who we're helping. Empathy can be exhausting. Compassion shouldn't be.
You've got a lot going on at the Jung Center this week. We got the event tomorrow night, and you've got some classes coming up.
We do. It happens that this week I'm teaching a class. A class starts for me. It's called "How Can We Be Free?" And it is about the quickest summary of it is that a mentor of mine says that the first half of our lives is biography. The second half of our lives is autobiography. And by that, he meant that, when we're born, we are sort of born into all of these stories that are already being told about us. It may be the stories that our parents or our families tell about us and what are, who we are in the world, and that our religious leaders or our community leaders, people, and just our cultures tell us about who we're supposed to be in the world. And there's a crucial moment for us, an opportunity to look at those stories and to make some decisions about them and say which ones still serve me and which ones don't. And that is as true for a culture as it is for an individual. We have old stories in this culture about in the United States about what is fair and what is right, and we talk about the pursuit of happiness, right? And these stories need to be examined. We need to look at them new each generation and make some decisions about what they're going to mean for us. And that's really what the class is about.
And that class is this coming Thursday, right?
Starts on Thursday, and I believe it's $150. Okay. Can be for 4 weeks, for 2 weeks, 2-hour sessions. But we have a robust scholarship program, so no one should feel that they are prohibited from coming because of finances.
We'll have all the information in our social media post after the show. Sean, it's always good to see you. Glad you had a good summer, and good to have you back on the show.
Likewise, Todd, it's great to see you, and y'all have a great week.
All right. Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, the Executive Director of the Jung Center of Houston, and our Mental Health Monday guest. All right, Nick, you've got another guest talking about a fascinating subject.
That's right, Todd. Thank you. Let me welcome Sheryl Ballard to the show. Sheryl Ballard and I work together in the history department, but those of us out there in the audience may not realize I'm up on the Northwest and she's down on the Southeast. So Sheryl and I do not spend enough time hanging out together. Welcome to the show, Sheryl.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you. So we'd like to ask you a couple of questions about Indigenous Peoples Week and Indigenous Peoples Day. I understand you'll have an event in the Southeast Campus next week. But what is Indigenous Peoples Day?
Well, first, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Karankawa tribe whose land the city of Houston is on. Just to do a land acknowledgement to let them know that we do recognize them and they are not gone. And they're working on bringing their culture back and letting everybody know. But Indigenous Peoples Day as a holiday is a day that celebrates and honors Native Americans, and it commemorates their histories and cultures. And in the United States right now, there are over 570 federally recognized tribes. In the 1950s, a lot of tribes were disbanded by the U.S. government. And so they have fought to get their recognition back. And there are some that are state recognized and some that are federally recognized. And on Indigenous Peoples Day, we celebrate the Indigenous people of the United States. And actually, it's a holiday that's a worldwide holiday, but it's celebrated at different times around the world.
So let me ask a little bit about some of the controversies around establishing an Indigenous Peoples Day. I know that less than half of our states do that. But Joe Biden was the first president to acknowledge it in 2021, and so it's not celebrated nationwide as a federal holiday or in most states. Why is that?
Well, it is taking the place of or being added to what was originally Columbus Day, and a lot of the Italian American community sees Indigenous Peoples Day as taking away Columbus and his holiday. But when you learn the history of what Columbus did, it may not be a history that we want to celebrate too much.
Yeah, you hit exactly on that controversy there about either replacing Columbus Day or sharing holiday space with Columbus Day. I certainly try to explain to my students that, 100 years ago, Columbus represented a multicultural United States open to immigration, particularly Catholic immigration. And now, as a symbol, Columbus represents something far different, right? The displacement, murder, enslavement of Native Americans.
Yes.
So I know that maybe this is sort of one of these controversies we always want to talk about. It's not just Italian Americans or American Catholics who might be opposed to displacing Columbus, but traditional history that sort of focuses on heroic founding type figures. That seems to be an element as well of people who don't want change, don't want to replace Columbus with Indigenous Peoples Day.
Exactly. And the United States is kind of late in the game of either adding the holiday, or in some places they've actually replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. It was in 1977 that the UN issued a formal declaration to recognize Indigenous peoples. And even Harris County did a proclamation in 2019. So we're kind of late to the game, but there is a lot of controversy there. So
Well, I do remember the 500th anniversary in 1992 being a moment where this really got a lot more momentum, but it was definitely associated with the very liberal cities and states rather than a nationwide movement. But I was surprised to see, sincerely surprised to see that Texas recognized Indigenous Peoples Day in 2021, shortly after Joe Biden did. So now we're having events on campus. Tell us a little bit about the event you have coming up. What is this film that you're showing?
The film is called, actually, it's part of a series from National Geographic that's called Our America. And the episode I'll be showing is called Reclaiming Turtle Island. And Turtle Island is what is referred to by Native people as the land that we call America. And the film highlights a lot of different natives and some native cultures that are, the people are working on retaining their and growing their culture. There are a couple of women in the film, Quanah Chasing Horse and her mother, who are activists within the community, and they discuss the significance of traditional tattooing and the cultural appropriation of tattooing that can sometimes be a misrepresentation of their sacred practice. Another person in there is Taboo, who is a musician. He is singer of the Black Eyed Peas. And he recently, okay, I say recently, probably within the last 10 years. Recent is,
By historian standards, that's yesterday.
Exactly. But he learned that he had Native heritage, and he has been learning about it and pretty openly discussing what he's learned about his family and how important it is to work on keeping these cultures around and try to bring back some of the cultures that may have been lost due to colonization and assimilation. And finally, there's one part in the film about the domestication of corn and other food crops, which is fascinating because we eat corn all the time, and hundreds and thousands of years ago, it did not look anything like it looks now. It had maybe 4 or 5 little kernels of corn on it. So it would have been a lot more difficult to sustain yourself on that.
So Reclaiming Turtle Island sounds like it'll give our students a kind of broad view of the long history of Native American people's lives here in North America.
Yes.
Are there other Native American history related celebrations coming up in October that you're organizing or aware of?
Not in October, but November is Native American Heritage Month. So actually, we have programs starting on the 1st of November at the Eastside campus, going all the way through November 30th. Most of them are on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but there are probably going to be ones that are other days of the week. Speakers from within HCC and speakers from the community. We have one speaker coming in from Louisiana. So a plethora of great topics. Decolonizing Thanksgiving, Native storytelling. There are 2 people who are going to be talking about the Karankawa, whose land we occupy. And one of them is going to be talking about cooking techniques of the Karankawa Indians. So
sounds like a lot of great programs.
Yeah, it should be fun.
We've got about 1 minute left here with you, but I'd like to ask you, tell us a little bit about the professional development opportunity you did up in South Dakota recently.
Oh, it was the Dakota's Indian Education Summit, and there are certain states in the US that require their K through 12 schools to learn about Native history. And maybe Texas will do that one day. But it was a good opportunity to hear what they're doing to have a broad education for their K through 12 students and carrying that over into universities and colleges. It was amazing to be able to be where there are reservations nearby and such large, we have a large Native community here. It's just Houston is so big that it's hard to have a cohesive community of anything. So we're working on it.
Well, I'm grateful you took the opportunity to go up there and participate in that, and hopefully bring some of that content, knowledge, and information into our curriculum, and maybe work with our local community partners in K-12 education as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thanks for stopping by and talking with us today.
Oh, thank you, and have a good Monday.
All right. Thank you both. We've got a few announcements to go through before we wrap up today's show. Congrats are in order for Doctors Drain and Burridge. Dr. Margaret Ford Fisher has made 2 more appointments since taking on her role as interim HCC Chancellor. Dr. Jerome Drain is now interim online college president, the position Dr. Ford Fisher held before. Dr. Drain came to HCC in 2014 as Dean of Academic Development at Northwest College and has since served in many leadership roles, including ABC of Academic Instruction. And with Dr. Kurt Ewan announcing his continuous medical leave, Dr. Andrea Burridge will serve as interim Vice Chancellor of Strategy, Planning, and Institutional Effectiveness. Dr. Burridge has served as AVC of Research, Analytics, and Decision Support for 4 years, playing a crucial role in ensuring that HCC is a data-informed institution. Congrats to both of them on these new roles. They're effective as of today. And also, we've got some student life tips for our students here at HCC.
That's right, Todd. The Recipes for Success program is back. These student life workshops continue to assist in improving the skills and studying habits. Coming up, test-taking strategies on Thursday, October 5th at 2 p.m. Check out the post after the show for more information about this virtual meeting on Teams.
Okay, we mentioned that we have this show just about every day when HCC is in session, with an exception of this Friday. That's because there is the spring, or I should say the fall convocation. So we'll have no up to the minute Friday morning. And as a reminder, HCC's fall convocation is this Friday. So make sure you register today. It is mandatory. But that also means that up to the minute will not be on. So have a good Friday. We'll talk more about that later in the week. For convocation, though, you need to register. We'll have a link in our social media post where you can do so. And as you were talking about, we've got Indigenous Day celebrations happening around the college, one of them at our Southeast College.
That's right. Here's a little detail about the film showing that Cheryl and I were discussing. The HCC Southeast College Student Life, along with the History Department, is going to present an Indigenous Peoples Day celebration, including the screening of Our America, Reclaiming Turtle Island. Popcorn and refreshments will be provided. This is going to be at the East Side campus in the Student Media Room 137 on Monday, October 9th from 11 to 1 p.m. Check our post after the show for more information.
Now, in November, HCC will host the 2023 Gulf Coast Region Apprenticeship Summit. It's going to be at the West Houston Institute, said to be where exceptional talent and business growth converge. The summit is designed to cultivate a pipeline of skilled professionals. Make plans now to shape the future of our workforce and drive sustainable success. It happens November 13th through the 15th at the West Houston Institute. We'll have more information in our post after the show. And if you haven't registered and you want to still take classes, Nick, you still have time to do so, but the sessions are getting shorter as we go through the rest of the semester.
Yeah, that's right, Todd. On the academic side of the house, we've got 8-week sessions that start October 16th. Now, there may be some 4- and 5-week sessions on the workforce side of the college as well. But we offer online anytime classes. We offer classes online on a schedule with virtual meetings. We have in-person classes, of course, and we do have hybrids, a little in-person, a little online. Even our laboratory classes offer a hybrid lab option. So to learn more about classes, HCC programs, start dates, and options to cover your costs, go to hccs.edu/apply.
Okay, tomorrow, Tasty Tuesday, we'll be celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with a favorite Tex-Mex spot, La Cocina, which is located in Richmond. Later on this week, we'll be talking with a professor about his learning framework, classes to drive students to succeed in those early years. All that and more coming up on Up to the Minute. Nick, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.
It was great. Thanks again.
All right, we'll see all of you tomorrow live at 10 a.m.